Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode in this series, the Dawah Ilallah, and how to be effective in calling people to submission to the one true God, Allah Ta'ala. And we've been looking at some of the characteristics that a da'i should have. And now we're looking at the characteristics that he should have, and we're going to look also at some of the characteristics he shouldn't have, the do's and don'ts of the characteristics that a da'i should have. And we've spoken about the fact that he should be a person who is one who believes in what he's talking about. He should be a person of prayer. He should be a person of patience. He should be a person who spends money wisely for the sake of Allah, that he is careful where he spends his money, where he gives his money, that he does the investigation and looks at where that money is actually going to be used. That's going to be used for the sake of Allah. And it's not going to be used for, sometimes we give money and we find out it's going nowhere where we thought it would go. The next point we looked at is that everything that he does, it must be just and good cause that he's doing it. He must do things for the sake of society to make it a more just society, a better society. And that he has to make sure that he safeguards the rights of those people in his community, those that fit in with the teachings and legislation of Islam. Obviously, if they're haram teachings like legalizing marijuana or legalizing gay marriages or legalizing this, obviously that aren't going to go stand for those things. But things that will protect society, that's important. Like a gun-free America. Gun-free America, very much support that one. So if we look at the importance of a da'i, there are characteristics that a da'i must have, the do's that we need to have. A successful society is that a da'i must be one who protects the rights of the community that he lives in. He should be standing on the committee of all these different groups against women abuse or spouse and children's abuse. He should be a head on the committee of all of these, should be a Muslim. We shouldn't find that there aren't Muslims. One of the beautiful things that I saw in India is often when you're driving through India or you're driving through, especially in Pakistan, you see these big signs, big posters up. And it says youth committee, and then you'll see a Muslim guy in the youth committee. And you'll see another one that says against woman abuse, and there will be a Muslim guy in that group. That's what we need to have. We need to make sure that we on those committees. If you have good committees in place and good structures in place, it will work successfully. I worked for a Muslim organization once, and 5 days of the week were taken up with meetings. So 5 days out of the 6 days that we worked were taken up with committee meetings. No wonder nothing ever happened. No wonder nothing went forward. Because you're so busy talking about things that never take place that you never see any success. So we have a balance of things. So yes, we need to make sure that we have answerability, that we have structures, but please, we have got dawah to do. There's work to be done. So maybe not everybody has to come to that meeting. Maybe once a week, have a nice long meeting. And so the other 6 days of the week, work can actually take place. So we said when we look at the characteristics of a da'i, that he must safeguard the rights of the people in the society. This is what is required. And that a da'i should constantly be someone who is calling upon Allah. Constantly. Not just 5 times a day. All the time. Whenever he's speaking to a group of people, even if he's speaking one-on-one with a person, you can multitask. We only thought women couldn't do this, but we just found out that men can also multitask. I believed for many years that men were incapable of learning to multitask until my wife taught me, and she said, yes, you can multitask. And so men know how to multitask. You can have a conversation, and that other 90% of the brain that we never use can be used for thinking while we're having a conversation. And that you can use for praying. You can speak to Allah. So even if you're talking to a person, you can be saying, while you chat to the person, during those pauses, you can say, Allah, help me with the next line. Help me with the next, give me the cheat sheet. Sometimes when we talk to camera and we forget what we are saying, we have a little piece of paper, or maybe we have like these way, we have electronic, we can have a look and we go, okay, that's the next line. Because we forget our lines and we've got a lot to talk about sometimes. So we need Allah to give us the next line. So we constantly be asking, what's the next line? Just like we do in a studio sometimes. We point to the director and we say, director, what's the next line? And he'll tell me, give me 2 words. And those 2 words will give me the whole sentence. So sometimes it's the same when we are doing dawah to people. We need Allah to be giving us the next 2 words, because that will lead us on to the conversation. So maybe we'll be talking about something to do with, fasting during the month of Ramadan, and we get stuck. Where do I go from here? And you'll say like, Yehuda. Oh yeah, Jews. Let's talk about how they used to do it. Or you'll be talking about Salah, and then next minute Allah will remind you, the Jews used to pray similar to the way you do. So this is what we need to do, constantly be calling upon Allah for guidance and help. No matter what conversation you're in. Even when I'm here now, yeah, I got the cheat sheet. But still have to ask Allah, where do you want me to go next? If I read the notes, this program will be finished like this, be over quickly. So it's Allah that I have to call upon and ask, Allah, please guide me. What must I say next? What will be pertinent to the young man at home, the young woman at home? What will be pertinent to the retired couple that are sitting watching Peace TV right now? What can I say that will make an impact on their dawah? So this is what we must be doing as da'is all the time. So this is something we must strive to have as part of our character. You can't fake it. You can't fake this. It's something that has to be part of your character. And remember, we spoke about last time that it takes a while to develop these habits. If you don't get it right in the first week, don't worry. Maybe you don't even get it right in the first 2 weeks. But if you persist and continue, remember the secret is persistence wears down resistance. Your resistance is your own nafs to these things. Your resistance can come from shaitans. It can come from people. It can come from many things. So you just got to keep persisting, keep going, keep going, keep going, no matter what comes your way. It says in the 22nd chapter of the Quran, verse 30, verily Allah will help those who help in His cause. So we have to strive in the cause of Allah. We need to strive to make sure that we are constantly calling upon Allah for help, and then He will help us, inshallah. If we are on the cause of Allah. If we're doing it for our own name, claim, and fame, the last thing we are thinking about is what Allah has to say about the situation. All we're thinking about is the next clever one-liner or the next clever slogan. We're not thinking about what Allah actually wants us to say. So we have to still rely, we must rely on Allah for everything. Nothing that we say should come from our own. It should be Allah inspiring us in everything that we're saying, directing us, guiding us. But we have to, of course, we need to understand this. There are many voices. How are we going to know if it is Allah guiding us or something else guiding us? How are we going to know that? Is if we become familiar with the Quran. If it becomes a habit that we read the Quran, then we'll know it's if going against it or going for it. If suddenly you hear the little voice in the middle of having a conversation, ask her to come have tea at your house, then you know it's not coming from Allah. Okay, so you must know how to discern. You need to have a discerning spirit. And this is the way you learn to discern is to know what Allah is telling you. So that's very, very important. So don't just listen to everything and say, are you saying it's that little voice? No, the little voice is the one that says to go buy that dress if you're a woman. Go buy the dress, you need it. Okay, that's not the voice you must be listening to. Let's move on to the next point that a da'i should have. Next point that the writer speaks, he says that a da'i should constantly repent from his sins and seek His forgiveness from Allah. This is very, very important. We said already, keep short accounts with Allah. Don't get big overdrafts. Keep very, very short accounts with Allah. When you do something wrong and you realize it, ask for forgiveness then and there. Don't wait until later. Deal with it immediately. Get it sorted out. The longer you leave it, the worse it gets. We're all at school. And where I came from when I was at school, we had corporal punishment. You know what that is? You got hardings if you did something wrong. They were old school. They didn't send you to detention. You got a harding. They would get a stick and they'd give you 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how bad the crime was. The worst part was not the harding that you got, the caning that you got. It was waiting outside the principal's office. That was the worst part. The caning was over. It's that waiting. And they did it on purpose. The principal, whoever you had to go to, do it on purpose. The teacher would do it on purpose. Make you wait out there. And all you would be imagining is the punishment the whole time. When you actually got it, it was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. And then you go back. You just couldn't wait for it to be over. You just give me the hiding so I can get on with my life. Isn't it? The worst part was waiting. And it's like that with when we do wrong. The worst part is leaving it. Just come clean. Who are you hiding it from? This is the biblical narrative, why it doesn't make any sense. Because in the biblical story, you've got Adam in the Garden of Eden, the Christian version. And then God, according to the Christian Bible, comes walking down. Obviously, I don't know how he came walking down, but obviously he came as a human or whatever. And he comes walking and he goes, Adam, where are you? He's looking for him. He can't find him. He doesn't know where Adam is. So according to the Bible, God does not know all things. And the second, he didn't know he ate the fruit, the thing that was forbidden for him to eat. These are two things that God was unaware of that day. The Creator is unaware of stuff? Not possible. But that's for stuff for the comparative side. But when we look at the characteristics of a da'i, he must be a person who trusts in Allah for everything that he gets, and that he must seek forgiveness immediately. Don't let things accumulate. By the way, in our day-to-day lives, same rule applies. Don't let a fight go on and on with your wife or your children or with your parents. With your parents, make sure that you don't stay angry with them. Make sure that you ask for forgiveness. Don't wait for them to come and ask you to ask for forgiveness. Go to them. Do you know how you will break the heart of your mother and your father? If you did something wrong and they punished you, and then you come back and you say, please forgive me, you will break your mother and your father's heart. They will begin to cry. Secret. I'm giving secrets that the children can use for your parents. Because that is something that every parent wants a child to realize, on a young man, a young woman, to realize on his own, I have done something wrong. And go to the mother and father and say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. What normally happens when your mother and father punish you? I hate my parents. I don't know why have I got parents like this. I wish I was living with those people. They have much better parents. Their parents are never home anyway. Isn't that what we say? So now if we had to go to our parents and say, no, I know I did wrong. Not if I did wrong, I know I did wrong. And then say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Your mother and your father would bawl, their eyes would well up with tears. Well, I would, if I was a mother or father, and then my child did that. Because this is something that a parent wants to see that the child has understood the consequence. Most parents, normal parents, not the lecture type parents, but normal parents, they actually care about their children. They love their children. They want the best for their children. So this would break their hearts. So in the same way, we're talking about doing this as a da'i should have characteristics it can have in our as well. Let's move on to the thou shalt nots, or the don'ts, that we find as a da'i should not have. These are things that this writer of this book, Dawah Ilallah, he brings out different points on what a da'i should always avoid when doing dawah, or when calling people to submit to the one true God. The first point he raises, he says, a da'i should not take part in the discussions if the verses of Allah are being ridiculed. When somebody begins to mock the words of Allah, you do not laugh and joke and sport with them. You don't engage with that. You stand firm and you are strict. You know, sometimes when we talk to Christians about some of the ridiculous things that you find within the pages of the Bible, they will even laugh. They'll laugh and say, yeah, it's one of those verses. We don't know how it got there. We would never do this because we don't have that same relationship with the words of Allah that the Christian has. The Christian knows this is a dubious book, their book. We know the Quran is not. It's not a book of question. It's a book of answer. So we don't go to it questioning what it actually says. We know what it says. It's reliable, 100%. Not 97.6% reliable, those other three verses that we don't mention, those are the ones that are, no, 100% reliable. Whether it suits you or not. I spoke to a brother yesterday or the day before, and he's a revert to Islam, young man in Islam. And he brought up the issue of dogs, you know, Muslims' favorite topic, dogs. What is our relationship with dogs? And we can't change what the rulings are to suit ourselves and say, well, because I love dogs or because I like dogs, I'm going to change the rulings. The rulings are the rulings. We have to accept them if we like it or not. We're not Christians that are going to reinterpret and rephrase and repackage things to suit ourselves. We're Muslims. Those who submit to Allah. That's what we must keep reminding ourselves what a Muslim is. One who's practicing submission to Allah. If you are practicing to be a high jumper, or you're practicing to be a show jumper with horses, or you're practicing fencing with swords, you don't question your trainer. If your trainer says you're going to do another half an hour workout, you don't say to him, I don't feel like it, because you'll find yourself without a trainer. Or you'll find yourself losing in the whatever you're going to be taking place, so whatever sports event is going to take place. You won't win. You will be a loser. You'll be counted a loser. In the same way, when we as Muslims are told to defend Islam, and we call ourselves Muslims, those who practice Islam, as someone practicing, we have to listen to what our coach is saying. Our coach is Allah, because we are the practicers of that. So we have someone teaching us how to practice. And so when we practice, we have to do what it says, whether we like it or not. We can't remake it and retailor it and reshape it to suit ourselves. Then we can't call ourselves the successors. Then we must count ourselves amongst the losers. So it's serious that we don't get involved in these arguments. I have a brother that I know who once started ridiculing many of the hadiths, started running them down, and he's a Muslim. And so I refused to speak to him. I said, I cannot have a discussion with you, I can't talk to you. If you are attacking what I consider to be authentic, not what I consider, what we consider as Muslims. So you have to be very, very cautious that you don't indulge in false conversations that are attacking Islam in that way. If somebody says, you know what, we Christians, we're going to have a special day where we're going to have burn the Quran day. You can have conversations, because he's a nutcase. He's not attacking a specific thing in the book. You can burn 1 billion Qurans. We'll just write another billion, because it's in the hearts and the minds of people. You can't destroy it. You can burn all the Qurans in the world. It's not going to do a thing. You just have a lot of fire. Allah is not harmed. You're not hurting Allah in any way by destroying the Qurans. You're not hurting Muslims by burning the Quran. You're just wasting a lot of paper and a lot of metals and a lot of fuel. The Quran lives in the hearts and minds of the people. We just rewrite it. If every Bible in the world was destroyed tomorrow, then that would be the end of Christianity. You could basically just put a stamp and say, finished, over, done. You can take all the Qurans in the world and burn them as long as you like. You just rewrite them tomorrow. It just goes on and on and on, because it's written in the hearts and the minds of the people. Very different. So when some people, when some crazy in America wants to burn Qurans, he's an idiot. Let him do what he wants. He had to buy the book, which means he gave money to Muslims in the first place. So let him buy one and he can burn every year. He's an idiot. He doesn't know any better. You understand? We must be cautious of going overboard about things. It's far more important that it's been written in our hearts and our minds. Now, many people that are screaming and shouting about the burn the Quran day, I debated the guy. I thought he was crazy. And I told him he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. But most of the people that are complaining about what the burn the Quran day guy is, they've never read the book themselves. So how do they know that he shouldn't be burning it? Unless they read it. So the Muslims need to read their book. Then they can defend it. So it's not the black and white letters. It's the meaning, it's the spirit, it's Allah that is more powerful than whatever matches you might set to a few pages. So that's the most important thing that we need to understand. So we cannot be people who allow people to mock or destroy the words of Allah and participate in that and indulge in that and laugh at that. That is a number one, not permissible. Two, the next point that the writer brings up, he says, a da'wah should not degrade himself. On the other hand, he should be dignified. In other words, he should not degrade himself. He mustn't be a person who gives a bad impression. Not that Islam needs adverts, but we are the adverts of Islam. What people see in you and I is what they're going to believe about Islam. When they switch the television on, and this has always amused me, when they switch TV on and watch something happening in Iraq or something happening in Palestine, you'll see that one crazy Muslim burning the American flag or burning the Israeli flag and jumping on it, and all the cameras on that one crazy. But they forget that there's another 5,000 or 10,000 people there that never went and interviewed. So we mustn't be that guy that's going to be caught on camera doing that. We must be the guy speaking to the journalists, explaining why we are on the march in the first place, why we want Palestine to be handed back to the people that it belongs to. We should be making sense when we speak. Not the screaming guy, the crazy weird look that everyone's seen. Another one screaming, ah! That's the one the journalists use every single time they want to depict a crazy Muslim. Where's the clever, smart, intelligent Muslim? And you know what we found in the South African situation? The guys that are doing all that craziness, pulling fences on the marches when we have Islamic marches or whatever, or burning flags, that's the guy you've never seen in mosque. That's the guy you never see during Ramadan. He never comes to any of the activities. He's the one with the least amount of knowledge. And that's the one the camera's looking for. The guy who's going to make a joke of Islam. So if you're an organizer of these marches and these talks, don't just have the guy with the flag saying, okay, come to the left, come to the right. You need spotters inside the crowd. They come to the guy and say, no, 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 that's not acceptable. If that's what you want, move. Chase him home. Send him home. Because that's what the journalist is looking for, the crazy guy. The journalist must find the normal guy. Everybody should be normal, that he can get a coherent word out of him when he asks him. See, we have to be careful on the character that a da'i has and how we project ourselves in society. Well, that's all the time we have for today, so you're going to have to join us again, same place, same time, where we talk about how to be effective in calling people to Islam. So, for me, Areeb Islam, and all those here, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
مشفق متعطف لا ينتهي بالحصر ما أعطاه رب رحيم مشفق